Too many people are just focused on their own business. I was sharing this last night with a friend. Focus, even successful people building their brand. Why didn't they speak out during COVID? Because they had a brand. My God, they speak out, their brand could be damaged. Or they don't speak out against Israel because, of course, it could be canceled and targeted. You've seen what's happened with Candace Owens, you know what they do, Dan Bilzerian, and people that speak out, they try and cancel them. Russell Brand, etc. So people are scared to cancel. But if you don't, well, then are you a courageous person or a coward? Then they control a lot of people through the professional class. How many professionals, doctors, lawyers, accountants, that never figured out the COVID scam? They're meant to be the smartest people in society, right? They have a 3 to 6 year degree at university, yet they're the dumbest in the class. Some of them still think COVID was a real pandemic. It wasn't a falsified pandemic. And all these people died from COVID, and we really needed that vaccine. Not just once, not just twice, but injected to you 5, 6, 7, 8 boosters. Boosting big pharma's profits and nothing for public health unless you believe in depopulation and infertilities. With the record drop in people having children these days, it leads me to an interesting thing. When I talk about that, the global population, is it a complete and utter hoax? Well, it appears so. Let's take a look at this.
The official numbers for world population released by the United Nations, as of now, have just surpassed 8 billion people living on Earth. In 1800, there were only 900 million members of the human family spread across the world, raising to 1.65 billion in 1900, and skyrocketing to nearly 7 billion in the year 2000. Now, in 2023, we have allegedly just passed the 8 billion mark. Given past failures and the many lies spewed by the UN during recent world events, however, it is fair and justified to remain skeptical of such statistics and to do some independent investigation before blindly believing. By collecting official statistics and doing your own math, it is difficult to find a way for these numbers to add up. For example, India supposedly has a countrywide population of well over 1.4 billion citizens. But when practical calculations are made using the UN's own numbers, how they could possibly conclude such a high figure is clear as mud. Taking their official figures of populations from the largest 300 cities in India, from 12.4 million in the biggest city Mumbai, to just over 100,000 in the 300th placed city of Aurangabad, and adding them all together, that barely accounts for 200 million of this supposed 1.4 billion. If all the 300 places with the largest populations in India taken together only account for 200 million people, it is statistically and geographically impossible for there to be another 7 times this number mysteriously hiding out in the remaining small towns and villages with populations all lower than 100,000. A similar situation occurs when adding up the official figures for the entire world's 300 most populated cities. Taking the UN's own official statistics, from 24.1 million in the world's largest city of Shanghai, China, to only 361,000 people in the 300th largest city of Beirut, Lebanon, the combined figures only come out to approximately 1 billion people. Even after adding all the statistics calculated for surrounding metropolitan and suburban housing areas around each city, the total only amounts to around 1.5 billion. Where are these other alleged 6.5 billion people hiding? Being generous, independent analysts have estimated at most another billion people could possibly be spread out across the world's rural countrysides, still putting the actual number well below 3 billion. The likely reason for these exaggerated statistics is that governments are incentivized to lie about population figures in order to collect more money for social programs. Then, by raising population figures to shocking levels, fear is created in the minds of the masses, and they are even more easily able to control and sell us on expensive, enslaving solutions. This hoax has resulted in billions of dollars spent fighting the phantom of so-called overpopulation, and led to many inhumane population control programs. In reality, however, if everyone were all squeezed into a population density of 27,000 per square mile, which is comparable to New York City, 8 billion people would only fill up the state of Texas, leaving the entire rest of the world uninhabited. Thus, the idea that Earth is dangerously overpopulated and governments need to take drastic measures to combat the issue is another paper tiger attempting to scare us into submission. Overpopulation concerns led China to enact a brutal one-child policy. Forced sterilization is a method of population control in some countries. Nearly 250,000 Peruvian women were sterilized. Our government, through the UN Population Fund, is involved in population moderation programs around the world, including in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Mongolia, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, the Philippines, Thailand, Egypt, Turkey, Ethiopia, and Colombia. The greatest threat to mankind's prosperity is government, not population growth.
Well, isn't that interesting? What do you think about that? Do you think the United Nations, the global elite, have basically lied about population figures or exaggerated them? Now, let's think in the past. Do the elites, through the government, Western puppets they control, and the mainstream media they own, have they ever possibly lied to us in the past? The answer, of course, is yes. Had they possibly lied about pretty much everything? The answer is also yes. So is it highly possible they are lying about the global population? I agree with Elon Musk. I've been outspoken on this. He has as well. And we've stated many times that population decline is a greater threat to humanity than overpopulation. This is based on the fact that they weren't lying that there is 8 billion plus people on the planet. As you've seen there, they're talking only 1 billion in the major top 300 cities. Add another 500 million for the surrounding suburbs that might be counted as part of the population, and then maybe another 1 to 1.5 billion in rural areas is 2.5 to 3 billion. That's well short of the 8. They're heading towards 9 billion, they're saying. But even based on their statistics, the world's population was going to peak by 2040 at 9 billion. Let me ask you a simple question. The world's overpopulated. How come all the young women you know in the world today aren't having 5, 6 children like their parents or grandparents? Why are, how many young women do you know that are having children younger than their grandparents and more children than their grandparents? It'd be pretty hard to find, right? Most young women are delaying having children, and if they do have any, maybe 1 or 2. In fact, most nations are in massive population decline. Japan, Russia, Western Europe, Italy in particular, even Australia. If Australians didn't allow mass immigration, they wouldn't be able to replace themselves. So most countries will say, well, what about African nations? Okay, but African nations now have contraception. What about China? China regret the one-child policy. Now they're trying to encourage Chinese women to have 2 or 3 and giving them incentives to have 3 children. But guess what? A lot of Chinese women are going, I don't want that. I don't particularly want that. So if the world's population figures weren't a lie, then what they should be is that they were going to decline anyhow. But if they are lying about we only have 2.5, 3 billion people are going to go into decline, then the idea of overpopulation and needing to sterilize women is a myth.